All this week, we've been talking about how the 2020 candidates are all weighing in on the idea of an impeachment. Well, now we're hearing from a member of the House Judiciary Committee about the topic. Texas Congresswoman Jackson Lee says she's not running toward impeachment, but she's not running away from it either. She spoke to our CBSN political reporter, Caitlin Huey-Burns.
Well, what I do believe is that we'll know it when we see it. We will address it when the facts are all presented. We're doing it a little differently. I'm one of only 3 members of the Judiciary Committee that was on the committee when the last impeachment came. Clearly, I believe it's distinctive of what we're dealing with today. Those matters were personal matters and not matters of state. Now we have matters of state. We have issues of obstruction of justice conspicuously involved in the whole governance of this nation. We have staff being told to fire the special counsel and then told to cover it up and don't tell anyone. And we have the conspicuous associating with a known and conspicuous, if you will, enemy of the United States, Russia. And so I think there's a lot that we must unpack as a Judiciary Committee. The constitutional aspect of it falls within our committee.
Caitlin Huey-Burns is in Texas covering a presidential forum which focuses on the issues important to women of color. 8 2020 Democratic candidates are expected to appear. So, Caitlin, I got to ask you, with all due respect to the Congresswoman, she kind of gave you an answer that really upsets no one. I'm not going toward it. I'm not running away from it. It seemed kind of like a weak answer. I don't get it.
Yeah, walking a pretty cautious line here. We've seen a really interesting divide within the Democratic Party on this issue. You have Nancy Pelosi on one side urging her members to take some caution here, cautioning that impeachment could be divisive, could divide the country. Meanwhile, you have candidates out on the campaign trail, like here in Houston, Elizabeth Warren, even Kamala Harris, advocating for at least starting the impeachment proceedings. Now, I asked the Congresswoman kind of what this would all mean, because she was there in the Clinton years, she was on the same committee, and she essentially said that you can start these investigations or continue them and probe where they want to without necessarily having to start impeachment proceedings. But some Democrats have argued, why not just start the impeachment process and see where that gets? Now, Democrats in leadership say that, look, you need bipartisan buy-in if you're going to actually be successful with impeachment. But on the campaign trail, this is much more about the politics than it is about the practical nature of it.
Well, you got Val Demings, the Congresswoman from Florida, who recently said on the call with Democrats, this is ridiculous. Why do we need to do any more? We have a whole report that basically lays out everything. Aren't we ready to go? That's just one opinion. But let me ask you this. Why do the Democrats feel like they need to do more investigating beyond what's in the 408 or so pages of the Mueller report?
Well, the Democrats do not trust Attorney General William Barr. They also want to see the full report, not the redacted version that they have seen. And they believe that there is evidence that the president did perhaps obstruct justice. And they want to get to the conclusions on that. They want to bring in several people, including Bob Mueller, for example. But here's what people like Nancy Pelosi and leadership are dealing with, is that Democrats won back the House with moderate members. We talk a lot about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and some of the more liberal members of this party, but really when you look at the districts that helped Democrats win in 2018, they were from swing, suburban, traditionally Republican districts where impeachment of the president isn't all that interesting. I could also tell you that being out on the campaign trail, we rarely hear from voters about impeachment. What we do hear about, what they care about, they tell us, healthcare, the economy, education, all of those issues are topping their concerns.
So you've got the most diverse field in terms of Democrats right now who are running. How does that translate when it comes to campaigning?
Well, there are forums here, like in Houston, She the People. This is going to be an audience that is primarily African-American women, really speaking to the diversity that we've seen on the candidate level. And why do they pick Houston? Well, Houston is kind of emblematic of growth potential areas in places like Texas that are traditionally red, that Democrats see potential for wins here. In 2018, Harris County, where we are right now in Houston, doubled its voter turnout. And the demographics here are very favorable to Democrats. You've got a quarter of the population here in Harris County that's African American, and you have about 45% that's Latino. So those demographics are interest areas for Democrats to compete here. The presidential primary here on the Democratic side is March 3rd. That's the same day as California. It's going to be a Super Tuesday, and that's why lots of Democrats are focusing here in Texas.
Who are some of the big names at the forum where you are?
Well, we've got about half of the presidential candidates, and in this big field, that means about 8 of them are going to be here. We're going to hear from Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, Amy Klobuchar, to name a few. Julian Castro, of course, a native Texan, is also going to be addressing the crowd here. And they want to speak to this crowd about issues on health care, on education, on racial inequality. We've seen that as a big theme here. So we're really interested to see what voters here and participants here are thinking about. And we're also going to be talking to organizers in Texas that are trying to make this state a battleground state on the national level. We'll see what those efforts are like.
Caitlin Huey-Burns, thank you very much.